local conversation. So another thing, just for the day, I was thinking about just to bringing some relation from what we left off at Christmas about this structure. Though it's a religious structure, we don't worship this. This is brought here only for illustration purpose. So at the time when there was some irregularity in human social life was on, there was a time that the religious or the person, the leader, was actually leading the children of God. God created the heaven and the earth and let it go for some time. Just to see how there's some wickedness among the people, and people are not in good regulation. So that's when the 10 Commandments came. We all know about the 10 Commandments. But one thing to remember is when God gave the 10 Commandments, He knows, all the 10 Commandments, people cannot check one by one and see, hey, am I following today? How many commandments I followed? Those kind of things are very difficult. So God, in one hand, when He gave, in another hand, He gave actually a sacrificial system. So this is actually a symbol of the sacrificial system. There's a priest inside. The priest will make sure if someone sinned or someone made any wrong, he wanted to make sure everyone, their sins are all forgiven. So that is why the sacrificial system came. So there's a diagnostic system where the diagnosis is whether he has sinned or not. Then the 10 Commandments will talk about. But this is more like a therapeutic system. So we have this system that can do some therapy. But at the same time, even today, the modern medicine, you have this small molecule therapy, which can actually do only for certain time. It cannot heal. There are several complex diseases. They don't have any real cure for that, right? It can sustain our life for some time. But the real curing cannot be done. That's why they invented the stem cell. They have the hope that it can go even take a long period of time. So this system I can call this as a small molecule system that can sustain the life for some time, but not the regenerative medicine that modern technology is on. So the problem here, the priest has to also clean himself because he also could make mistakes. So he has to first make sure he is cleansed, and then he has to pray for the rest of the people who are gathering around. He does the prayer. So there's a time called Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the time for atonement. Once in a year they celebrate that. So during the time, the priest will enter into the Holy of Holy, which is actually, I might have to wear my physics hat to talk about different constructions. There's something called the altar. This is where, the sacrificial altar will be, or the system will be, or the goat or lamb will be put. And then he will take it inside. There is a candlelight. Also, there is some bread. Because the priest has to stay there inside for a longer period of time. He has to sustain himself with food. And also there is some incense. So incense, also that is one of the, symbolic prayers he does. And then he has to, only once in a year, he can go to a place called the Holy of Holy. That inside the Holy of Holy is a place where, that's why God said, that's a place I'm going to dwell. And you have to do the sacrifice for everyone. There are simpler sacrifices like flower offering or, down offering and grain offering. Those kind of simpler for smaller type of things. But this Day of Atonement, he has to go inside and do, on a mercy seat, he has to sprinkle this lamb's blood. And at that time only he has to, pray for the entire mass. Now there are fewer problems. Because of his own sins, he can also get killed inside. Because God doesn't like, God is so holy that it's possible that he might. So people outside, they're all thinking, hey, the sins that we all did, is that, did God hear it? Is it the person, the priest has some bells around his waist. As long as the bell is ringing, the people outside, they can think, okay, he's alive. He's still offering the prayers, and only when he comes out and everyone will be excited with joy. Yes, our prayers are all heard. We can have this like another one more year. So this one more year, keep going. and now it is based on the animal sacrifice, right? So just like medicine, the animal-based medicine, detection or prediction is also has some problems. So that's why they are now saying, hey, you have to work directly on the human. So here, God has a even greater plan. God knows that people cannot sustain with this animal sacrifice for a long time. That's why ultimately God said, I have to just to come down to the earth. So He came down to the earth during. That's why we celebrate this Christmas as a symbolic or God coming. So we call that incarnation of God, right? So this is a place, even in the olden times, God dwells in that place. But through the incarnation, God is actually now dwelling with everyone as a human being. That's why they call this Christmas as the God dwelling in flesh among the humans. Now, the God came on Christmas. The main purpose is to pay this penalty of sin. So the lamb sacrifice is a penalty. You cannot completely redeem the human from the sin, but you can sustain by, you can make the sin not there. Just like someone, if you ask some people, hey, can you clean this place? And they might probably put the dust here and there under the chair or there, and that's how we know the cleaning. It's not completely taking this dirt out. So now, the completely take the dirt out part, God has to come down because He Himself can, provide this sacrifice for an infinite number of periods. Only the finite beings cannot do. Only the infinite can do, right? That's why the main purpose of God coming to the earth is for this day when He, this also fell on this day of atonement that He went to the cross. So there's a lot of circumstances that has happened. Some who put Jesus on the cross. That's a question. Is that the Jews put that? Not. So is that some people, like part of the people who pointed Judas Iscariot is one of the person. He said he betrayed of Jesus. Did he put Jesus on the cross? No. Actually, God the Father Himself put His Son on the cross. So that was actually the main purpose of Jesus coming down. So that no one made any mistake putting Jesus on the cross. It is God's ultimate plan that, the plan was initially prepared in the Garden of Eden. Then God sent Adam and Eve out of the place because of their disobedience. There was an eternal plan for very, many, thousands of years. But now, when Jesus took His life, He went to the cross and offered everyone. He said, it is finished. That was the last word He spoke. And it is finished. The penalty of sin is paid in full. And that's why there's no more sacrifices needed. Now, there's no more sacrifices in this system. But there are some patches of people still do those kind of sacrificial. But I think the main plan here is, that's why we call it as a Good Friday, because it's perfect plan of God is already finished. And that's why it is good. And more than that, someone went down to the earth, paid all the penalty, but he has to come out to show that whatever he spoke is right. And that's why we call this as resurrection of Jesus, talking about, his resurrected on this Easter Sunday. So with these two ideas, I was thinking maybe we can just to give a kind of justice for the time of Good Friday as well as Easter, sprinkling some ideas just like string and